Good morning, and thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we continue our study of David's wives, and we'll finish our study today of Abigail, one of the most amazing people that we meet in all of Scripture. We talked yesterday about how she intervened when her husband Nabal had insulted David, and David was ready to take revenge on the whole household and to kill all the men in the household, and how her wise counsel saved David from reacting, responding to his impulses based upon his testosterone level, and not wisely the way a man of God ought. And he understood that. Yeah, we said yesterday, for the one and only time in Scripture, we see David show real respect and appreciation for a woman, and sees her for who she is and thanks God for her, which he does. What we didn't bring out yesterday is that in the moment she proposes to him. She really does. The way we talked a few days ago about Ruth proposing to Boaz. Well, like his great-grandpa, David gets proposed to by Abigail. Because when she talks to David, she says, listen, you're going to be king one day. God said so, and I believe you're going to be king someday, and God's going to judge my worthless husband. I believe that too. So when all of that happens, she says, remember your maidservant. What did she mean by that? I think we know what she meant by that. Not just remember me kindly when you speak of me. It was remember me, come and fetch me, lay your claim upon me, because I am interested in you. So this is exactly what happens. What happens is that when Nabal finds out how close he came to wiping out his entire household because of the way he treated David, he evidently has a stroke or a heart attack or something and dies. This happens 10 days later. And when David finds out that Nabal is dead, David sent for her to take her as his wife. David understood completely what she was saying to him, and did not hesitate. As soon as he found out she was free, he took her because he wanted her. And to his credit, he waited until she was free, which he doesn't always do. And he knew that she wanted him to do this because she told him so. And she becomes his wife. And we're told this in 43 and 42. David came, she followed the messengers and became his wife, happily ever after. Hallmark movie of the Old Testament, right? No, because the very next verse said, David had also taken Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they both became his wives. So she didn't become his wife. She became one of two wives. The third wife, verse 44, Michal, has been given to another man for the time being. So she's third fiddle. Maybe not in David's heart, but she's the third wife. Perhaps the second, perhaps the third. But at the same time, it's not like David brings her to his tent, to his cave, and then enjoys time with her because of how much he cares for her. He's got another wife already. They go to Gath, and they live among the Philistines for a while, and he takes her with him. That happens in the very next chapter. And while they're there, they get kidnapped. And we're told about this in verse 30. Ahinoam and Bathsheba, and Abigail are both kidnapped by the Amalekites. We've talked about the Amalekites earlier. And of course, Saul does not destroy the Amalekites, and they're still causing trouble. But anyway, in chapter 3, verses 1 through 6, they came to the city. It was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. And David had no people who were with him, lifted up their voices and wept, and there was no strength in them to weep. And David's two wives had been taken captive, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal. And of course, it takes the rest of the chapter for David to hunt down the Amalekites, to destroy them, and then to take his wife back. And what happened to her while she was a captive of the Amalekites, we can only imagine, and we shudder to imagine, but it would not have been pleasant. The last we hear of Abigail is that she has a son in Hebron, and his name is Eliab, and he's the second son born to David, and that's the last we hear, really, of them at all. What was her life like? I don't know. I know it is the life she chose. And I know that if there is any woman on earth that David has shown respect to, it's her. So I hope that she had, on the whole, a good life as David's wife. But anyway, we'll talk about Bathsheba tomorrow, the third wife that we know anything about. Thank you so much for joining me for 5 good minutes with the Word.